Awesome. So, welcome to today's final edition of the Introduction to Human Design Free School. And today we're going to talk about how human design can really provide some enlightening information about your relationships and help you to have more harmonious relationships. My good friend Thea Lynn Crandall, some of you would know her. She has an amazing business. She's an intuitive business consultant, and she does this thing where she, analyzes you in each way and kind of comes out with what you really ought to be doing in your work. And so according to Thea Lynn, she's always said that my biggest contribution is in the realm of relationships. And I hadn't really bought into that. But something that is just kind of coming to me recently is seeing how naturally I like to create collaborative business projects. And, I studied relationships extensively in, that was my training with Gay and Katie Hendricks. They specialize in relationships. So I'm starting to open up to that idea. And I think that, to me, one of the things that makes for a good relationship, first of all, is self-awareness and self-knowledge. So the ability to honor yourself. Because if you can't honor yourself and you're out there looking for others to honor you, that you're not really coming from a place of wholeness. So to me, a good relationship starts with, you having awareness in yourself, of yourself, and what is your truth, what's going to be healthy for you. And then when you can do that for yourself and come into contact with another person and begin to honor them for themselves and who they truly are, well, that's an exceptional relationship. And most relationships are, to varying degrees, unhealthy or dysfunctional, oftentimes because we're looking to others to resolve some kind of neediness in ourselves. So they're less of a coming together of two, whole individuals and more, a resolving of our neediness through each other. And so to me, human design, is a challenge because it challenges you to become whole in yourself. It challenges you to really master your part of the puzzle. And then I think once that you've got some of that going on, I think you can start to come together with others in a more whole and healthy way. So yeah, I really just wanted to take today to show you, first of all, how you can apply what you've learned in the free school to your relationships, and then also to show you some of the potential of where you can go with this information once you really have a grasp of it. Because chances are you're a people person. You likely work with clients in some kind of helping capacity. That's typically the people that I attract and work with, are people that are helping others. And they're, if you can look at your client's design and help them, enhance their relationship to themselves and to become more whole and healthy in themselves, you can help them enhance their relationships. You can also better understand your dynamic with your clients, and as well your partner, your children. I've seen a huge impact of human design on parents and understanding their children and letting their children be who they really are. So yeah, I want to show you how this works today. And we're blessed to have Wade here. Wade is someone who I really admire how Wade relates and the way that he, has relationships. I think I've learned a lot about a healthy way of relating Wade, because, you know, we all inherited the way that our parents relate, you know, like that was what we were pickled in, right? We were, you know, we're like little, you know, zucchinis or whatever that just get pickled in this whatever dysfunction our parents had, and that was normal. And so then as adults, we just tend to replay those patterns. So like even yesterday, I was going to talk to Wade to prepare for today, and then at the same time that I was just about to talk to Wade, another friend called, and I kind of felt like that, like torn. It's like, oh my gosh, my other friend really wants to talk to me right now, like an issue happened. And then I just said I would talk to Wade, and I was like, I sent Wade a message. I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I just got this. And I loved Wade's response. It was like, he's like, I don't know what you should do. He's like, I think it's best if you follow what you need to do for you, and I do what I need to do for me. And I don't feel comfortable to advise you on what's good for you. And I just loved that. It was such a funny little moment, because it was like, you know, that typical, you know, dysfunctional behavior of, I'm like a lost puppy dog. I don't know what to do. I'm not empowered. All of a sudden, I'm no longer like this person who really is aware of what's right for me. I'm trying to please two people at once. So, you know, we can, you know, relationships, I think, are just such a frontier for personal development, period. You know, relationships are where we really get to see our crap and have it put right in our face so that we can resolve it. And, you know, having unconscious things just come to the surface. So human design can, you know, help that process and just make it a little bit easier and more friendly and more aware, for sure. Wade, do you want to add anything to that lecture?
Do I have anything to add to that right this moment? Yeah, I mean, I feel like you did touch on the general outline of what we're going to cover today. So I guess I don't have anything to add right this second. Nothing's coming up.
Okay. Cool. Great. So yeah, I love seeing the questions in here. Thank you, Catherine. So what I'd like to just introduce y'all to is this band 2 thing. We were looking at it in the last call as well. Oh, okay, the page must reload. But band 2, part of the reason why I really like using this software to look up charts is because it allows you to easily kind of compare and contrast between 2 different charts. So, and it can be a little tricky to kind of figure it out at first, but I'm going to actually at the charts of 2 people that were on the call last week, a couple, and they had a question, and I somehow missed them. So I would like to just give them some attention. They're not actually here today, but they'll watch the recording. So here we have Greg, and this is his chart. Greg is potentially the most talented massage therapist I've ever met. He's just an incredible healer. He lives in California, and his wife, so I've shifted, so I have person A and I have person B. So his wife is Antonia. We're just going to use them as a case study. So here we have Antonia and her chart. So as I was saying, one of the nice things about Band 2 is you can just kind of easily flip back and forth between 2 people's charts. So in the free school, we covered in the basics of the 4 navigational gems in your chart. So let's just look at relationships through this lens. And this is something that you can do now. This is something you already have the knowledge to be able to do. So we look at this first chart of Greg, and the first navigational gem is like, what type is this person? So you remember, if a person has this center, this sacral defined, that makes them a generator. So he has this defined, so he's a generator. Then we look over and let's find out what type Antonia is. So she doesn't have this sacral center defined. So automatically we know that she's not a generator. So now we need to do a little bit more investigation. So we see that she has these centers defined, and then she has these 2 centers defined. Now, this is a little bit maybe complex for having just learned this, but what there isn't in her chart is a connection between any of the motor centers and the throat. So these 4 centers are motor centers, and we don't see any connection between them and the throat. So that makes her a projector. So automatically, right away, we've just learned a lot about this couple. We've learned that on the one hand, we have Greg, who is a generator, and he has an open, enveloping aura. He's here to, let life come to him and respond to what he resonates with his energy. So, and he has this beautiful sacral that's defined. So his life is really just about using his energy well. And when he uses his energy well, he's going to be really satisfied. So we know that about Greg. And then we look over at, Antonia, and we see a completely different type, someone who has an absorbing and penetrating aura, and who doesn't have the sacral defined. So that means, she's not going to be able to kind of keep up with Greg. She's not going to be like the wife who like goes like, rollerblading in the morning and then works all day on clients and then makes dinner and then goes out, to a party. That kind of, she maybe could do that for one day, but, ongoing, she's going to probably need to rest a lot more than Greg would. And, I was just sharing this with a couple friends of mine the other day. The girl in the couple is a generator, and they're on a surf vacation, and she's just like, I just want to surf all day. She's obsessed. And then her boyfriend is a projector, and he's learning to surf, and like even visiting with him, he was just so tired and he injured himself, and I was like, well, so that he couldn't surf. So even in their current dynamic, it was already a huge relief for, her to say, oh, it's okay for you to rest more, because he naturally just wanted to rest more. And then for him to let it be okay for her that she has a ton of energy and that she's got to use it up. Like, because he was kind of saying things like, oh, you're obsessed. Like, why be so like crazy about surfing, So there was already a tension in that relation, like the way they're relating, that doesn't honor their type. But knowing their type just allows them to be more understanding of who the other person is and letting them be who they are. So yeah, knowing your type, I feel, is just really profound and can really help relationships. That's a very basic thing that all of you have learned that you can actually, use in your own relationships, but also, you could look at your clients' charts and just see this basic dynamic and have a better understanding of how to relate to your clients. Wade, is there anything you want to say about type?
Well, yeah, I feel like you're being very clear about it. Um, the thing with the projectors is oftentimes they've been so conditioned that they are amplifying the energy of the generators in their life. And so they have a tendency to really go overboard, and they can really look like the busiest people, and they can look like the most energetic people, but there was some way to look inside and gauge how much effort they're putting into that. They're putting in like 10 times more effort to keep up with everyone that is a generator. And so it really takes a toll on their body and on their psyche, and over a long period of time, you know, obviously it's not very healthy for them. So there's, you know, this whole thing as we talk about this, like you really have to bring it back to yourself and being in tune with yourself, because the whole idea with human design is we want to break you out of the box of your conditioning, and we don't want you stepping into the box of human design. So take these things as guidelines and really just come back to your inner knowing and really get in touch with that, because we're clearing away the dust so that you can really get in touch with what is true for you. And yeah, so the projectors, they do have a tendency to be going really far overboard with it. And like Karen said, once people understand the difference in each other's being, then there's just a lot more acceptance and grace in the relationship, because then you can really support each person's best interest, you know. But projectors they can do a lot of stuff, and they can have that full day, but they need to make sure that they're really in alignment with their energy so that they're not overdoing it.
Beautiful. Thank you. I'd love to just hear from anyone that wants to share any comment or question about type, just keeping it to that, what we've just talked about so far. I'm going to go over the four gems on this call, but if anyone has a comment or a question about type, you can just unmute yourself. Is that you, Rose?
It is. Hi.
Hi.
Yeah, so I'm a manifesting generator, and I'm still trying to make sense of the difference between a generator and a manifesting generator. And my partner is a generator, like a pure generator.
Okay.
What are your thoughts?
Okay. Well, let me just share screen here. So let's look at Greg. I think Greg is a pure generator. Yeah. So Greg, like, he is a generator in that he, you know, has this sacral defined, but he doesn't have a connection between the motor, one of the motor centers, and the throat. Mm-hmm. And let's look at me. Or actually, we could look at you, Rose. Are you in here?
Yes, you are.
Yeah. Okay, so here's Rose, and she has the sacral defined, but then she has these channels that are linking up to the throat. So she has this direct line of energy that goes from her sacral to her G to her throat. So I like, you know, one way of talking about the generator versus the manifesting generator is like the worker and the independent worker, like the team worker and the independent worker. So because you as a manifesting generator have that, you know, motor to throat connection, you know, once you're responding to something, you can kind of just go and you can just do it. Like, you can make something happen. You can create. You know, like an example of that would be this free school that I created. It was like, I got the inspiration and then it was just like, go, you know, like I built the page and I put it out there like within a day, you know, it was done. Whereas someone that is more of a generator, they don't have that manifesting part. Mm-hmm. They tend to kind of need more collaboration in order to have things come into being, because they don't have a connection between the motor and the throat. So let's see how that applies to relationship. I mean, I think manifesting generators in general, you know, they can tend to be a little bit more impatient. And, you know, when they're using their energy well, they'll be satisfied and they'll also be peaceful. So they have, you know, the signatures of both the manifester and the generator. You know, the manifester is peaceful when they're kind of doing their thing and they're not being messed with. And I think, you know, the difficult thing about being a manifesting generator is that we like to just do our thing and not be messed with, not be interrupted, not be, you know, not have to deal with someone else kind of messing with our flow. So, and this is something I'm really maybe just starting to learn, is how to inform, like how to just keep people who are going to be impacted by, you know, my actions in the loop of, you know, what I'm doing. And yeah, because the way that, as a manifesting generator, the way that you move will have an impact. And so I don't know, I think that the manifesting generator has more potential to just kind of create waves in a relationship, because they, you know, if they're not informing, and they're not able to just kind of do their thing, then they can be resistance. They might get angry, frustrated. Mm-hmm. So informing, I feel, is like a big key difference between the generator and the manifesting generator. Mm-hmm. But I feel like that was a little bit of a messy answer. I'd love to hear what you have to say on the topic, Wade.
Yeah, well, you did hit on a main point. The manifesting generator tends to move really fast, whereas the generator moves a little bit slower. There's kind of a funny little analogy. It's like, if all the types are sitting together in a room, it's like the reflector is watching everyone, and the manifester just gets up and leaves without telling anyone, you know. They should tell everyone, hey, I got to go, but they just get up and go. Manifesting generator is right, like, oh, they respond. They're like, oh, things are happening, the party's over, so they go too. Generator is kind of like, okay, well, I want to go, but I have to gather all my things. I got to make sure I have my keys. I got to make sure I've got my phone. I've got to make sure, you know, everything's all taken care of. And then the projector is going to go with, you know, one of the generators that invites them. And that's the general way of kind of how this works. And like literally, sometimes you'll see it. It's like if you're at the supermarket and someone's in line in front of you, and if they're a generator, just a straight generator, they're the ones that it's like they have to, you know, like get all of their stuff together just right before they go. And they're kind of like almost holding up the line a little bit, because they're like reorganizing the bag, and they're making sure that, you know, they put their wallet back in their pocket, and their keys, they've set their keys down on the desk, and it's like, okay, you know, the manifesting generator just is like moves really, really fast. The problem with that is that manifesting generators can skip steps, and then they have to go back and redo them. So it doesn't really help us. I'm a manifesting generator. It doesn't help us to move too fast. We can when we need to, and it's a very valuable skill. But if you're moving really fast all the time, guaranteed you're missing important parts of the journey that are going to bring you understanding that you need to have to reach completeness. So let it bring you back, and you will have to repeat previous steps if you haven't finished them. And that's a signpost that you're moving too fast, if you're having to go back and correct, you know, quote unquote mistakes. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if does that answer your question any better?
Yeah, it just made me, I just definitely had an aha just a minute ago about like, oh yeah, I really should finish that thing from 6 months ago that's been holding me up.
Hmm. Yeah, and they can work really well together. You know, the generator to generator relationship is really beautiful because it's a very honest relationship when you really get in touch with this, because you just ask questions and the response just comes out, and it's just so crystal clear. And if it's not, you know, because maybe someone's emotional or something, then there is like, you just have to give them that little bit of time. But it's just a very honest relationship because it's all, you're just responding to one another. You just ask.
Okay, thanks.
Cool. I like that question. Thanks, Rose. Yeah, I can think of like baking. I love baking, or at least I used to love baking. And like baking with a generator is like so annoying, or even cooking with a generator. Because for me, because I I am so fast at making things because I just like skip a whole bunch of steps. It's like there's no way I'm gonna do the recipe like this. Like there's no way. And if I'm with someone who's doing that, like cooking with Feel In, like Feel In will take a recipe and she'll be like, okay, so this first thing we measure out this, and then the next thing we measure this, and I'm like, no way I'm measuring that. I'm like, squeeze a lemon, you know, throw it out, like scoop of peanut butter. Like and if I have to wait and watch someone do the step by step, like that's just brutal for me. I'd rather just sit back and watch them cook. So yeah, that's a fun difference to highlight. Cool. Okay, I'm just seeing if there's any. Can you point out another few places where they will bump up against each other due to their designs with a generator and a projector? Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, I think a big thing with generators and projectors, and generator projector relationships are really valuable to understand because they're a really transformative, powerful relationship. And you know, the relationship between Greg and Antonia is probably really powerful because here he has this open, you know, enveloping aura, and she has the penetrating aura. So she's able to see things that maybe Greg isn't even aware of yet, you know, and and she'll be, you know, because she's absorbing his energy and information about him. She's just absorbing it through her aura because the projector's aura is absorbing. She'll be getting information about Greg that maybe Greg doesn't even know. And, you know, when she shares that with him, it's penetrating. So it really goes in. There's no defense in the generator to a projector's what they see. And so, you know, that can be incredibly powerful in that, you know, Greg probably feels really seen in this relationship, like that Antonia gets who he is and is able to reflect that back to him in a way that no one else can. So there's a recognition that's so intimate and so personal between the generator and the projector. The difficult part of that is if he's maybe not ready to see something about himself, or if she's even a little off in her delivery, or it's not right timing, she wasn't really, you know, invited to share, then he can feel really hurt by Antonia. And, you know, what she says and what she perceives might really just kind of create resistance in him. So that can be a source of conflict in a generator projector connection. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, and then, you know, if he's feeling hurt like that and he withdraws his energy, then that has an impact on her.
Yes.
And so this is like where that cycle begins, you know. If she's always correcting him or pointing out things and it's not always invited, then he withdraws his energy, and it's like that's this dynamic that can, you know, tear apart.
Yeah. It's like it's kind of like a punishment. And
Yeah.
you know what Wade means by withdraws his energy is like, you know, the projector being, you know, for Antonia being in Greg's aura is going to be yummy because, you know, she's taking in and amplifying his sacral energy, which is life force. She's also taking in and amplifying his emotional energy. So, you know, when he's in a good mood, that'll feel really good. But then if he takes that away and he wants to be alone, or he goes out, you know, he's hurt and he wants to just go out and be away from her, then, you know, she's kind of left without all those resources. Yeah, and a lot of that applies too with the, you know, with the manifester, because the reflector, because the manifester is going to be, you know, amplifying sacral energy as well. But I'd like to move on to gem number 2 and look at authority. So again, gem number 1's type. So that's where you start, is, you know, when you're looking at any kind of relationships, you know, the basics is what type is this person. That's going to tell you a lot about how those two people interact and how you can really honor yourself and the other. Next, you can look at, you know, what is this person's authority? So, you know, when we look at Antonia's chart, she doesn't have the solar plexus defined. She doesn't have the sacral defined. She does have the spleen defined. So she has splenic authority. And then we look at Greg's chart, and he does have the solar plexus defined. So he has emotional authority. So, you know, Greg is going to need a lot of time to make his decisions and to come to a place of clarity. So he's going to move slow, and ideally he's going to take his time to feel things out. And, you know, one day he might feel really great about moving forward in a certain direction. The next day he might feel completely skeptical of it and doubtful about it. And, you know, it might take him a long time to reach a place of just kind of clarity and knowing. It's like, you know, this just feels right. And that can be really annoying for people who, like Antonia, have splenic authority, because splenic authority is in the now. So she might get like a clear hit that something's right, and she's just like ready to go forward. And then here she has this like husband who's like, today I feel good about it. Oh, I don't feel good about it. Up and down, all over the place, taking forever. And it's a really different, the way that these two authorities work. And I think in general, you know, authority is something, you know, we didn't really touch on it in depth in the free school, but it's nuanced and it's tricky. You know, whatever your authority is, it takes time to really learn how it works for you. So, you know, that process of learning how to honor your authority is, you know, it's difficult. I think it can make you look like a complete flake. You know, but understanding, you know, the other people in your life and how they make decisions can just make the day-to-day choices a lot easier and less pressure, because I think a lot of us, you know, we're conditioned to make decisions under pressure, and when we're under pressure, we tend to make decisions that aren't actually right for us. So, you know, when it comes to decision making, the more that you can understand, you know, your own authority, but also the other people in your life, their authority, the better you can honor each other, and the less pressure you can put on each other. Wade, do you want to share something?
Yeah, and another way of seeing that is like, we've all had these experiences where, it's like we want someone to do something with us and we talk them into it and then they come, but they're not really enjoying it. And then you're not enjoying it. And it's just like, it's not that great for everyone. So, how much better and how much sweeter, how much more enjoyable is life when it's all in alignment and when everyone is honored, so that when you're together and you're doing things together, it's like everyone's on board, everyone's there. And the magic that happens when that support comes together that's like the best parts of life. There's not that push and pull. It's like everyone's on board.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's worth, supporting each other's process, and, like the generator and the projector working together with that energy. It's the most beautiful relationship in this way, when they can really understand and honor and work through that process together. It's a much deeper level of relating when we can work with our loved ones in this way. What comes out of it is profound.
Absolutely. Yeah, I love that. And it's funny too, like I can see in myself how much, I don't know where I got this, but just the desire to have what I want, like to have people do what I want. And, like, why don't you just do what I want you to do? But like you're saying, Wade, I really realize that it is so much better for me when everyone's doing what they want and where they're honoring themselves. Even if I have an idea of how things should be, it's much better if I can let that go and really listen to people.
When you do it and when you let it go, not too long after, life will bring you, oftentimes exactly what you want. It doesn't always look like what you thought it would. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the trick is it's just really being open and starting to recognize like what life is putting right in front of us. We might be looking left when something's right in front of us. And that's happens a lot.
Yeah.
And the more you start to do that, at first the process is a little difficult, but it does start to ease up, and then you just start awakening, and you awaken in your life, you awaken in your authority, and that awakening it's just amazing. You're like, oh my God, life is completely nurturing me. It is totally taking care. I'm getting everything that I've always wanted. It just looks a little different than what I thought it should.
Mm-hmm.
Comparing myself to others or looking at what other people had, thinking I wanted that and all of this stuff. But we all get our own unique version of what's just right for us. And when you can do that in a relationship, well, these are the people that you see happy relationships with.
Awesome. Catherine, I'm not really, do you want to ask a question rather than just type it?
Sure. I didn't want to interrupt you guys. So I'm just like my husband and my son. My husband's a generator. My son's a manifesting generator, and I'm a manifesting generator. But I have emotional authority, and they both have sacral authority.
Uh-huh.
So I'm wondering if you can talk a bit about emotional and sacral interaction, because you've talked about the splenic authority, but you haven't talked about the sacral.
Yeah, I think I'm going to use your question for my own purposes.
Awesome. You're responding in that way.
So I'd like to use your question to just kind of transition to the next gem, because I think like a huge value of, gem number 3 is, your defined and undefined centers. And, you having emotional authority and your husband and son having sacral authority means that they have that emotional center undefined. So, in your dynamic, your family dynamic, Catherine is she's the heavyweight in the family. She's the one who's bringing the emotions, and the emotions are such a huge driver in sort of human behavior in general. So, the challenge with having the open emotions is that people with open emotions can really spend a lot of their energy avoiding upsetting the emotional person. So your husband might be doing things or not doing things in order to placate you, or just to keep things okay, because he doesn't want to upset you, or have anything. If you're having a bad day, that's going to have an effect on everyone in your house, because they're taking in that emotional energy and amplifying it. And in terms of decision making, you're going to take longer probably than they would to decide. I'm just going to see what the comment is. Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, how Maya's talking about how she has emotional authority and her business partner has sacral, and that the sacral person is kind of just wanting to move forward. Yeah, so someone that has undefined emotional center is going to be more cool in their way of going about life in general. More cool in that, to them, it might just seem like factual. It's like, yeah, this is just the way to do it because of, this. And for the emotional person, they don't make decisions that way. They, what's right for them might have make absolutely no logical sense at all. And that's true actually for the sacral as well, because what you respond to might make no sense, but they tend to be a little cooler, anyone that doesn't have emotional definition. So, for you, Catherine, in your family, knowing that you kind of pull the strings or you have the weight is valuable. And for me, knowing I have, the emotional center defined has taught me a lot about how to be healthy with my emotions. So I'm not just spewing them all over the place and making chaos all around me. And instead, if I am upset, really doing my best to cocoon or just feed myself. And the times when I'm upset are the times where there's something that I usually need to see, because the emotions are an awareness center. So, usually there's some sort of awareness that's wanting to be brought to the fore. And that's my time to gain awareness. It's not my time to necessarily interact with others. It's best if I don't, especially if the others in my life have undefined emotions. I mean, people with undefined emotions can be so empathetic, and it can be really nice to interact with them when you're upset. But, those interactions just need to be the right moment where everyone's happy to be there listening, kind of thing. So, when you look at a chart, understanding what centers someone has defined and undefined is really key. So let's just look, we'll go back to Greg and Antonia here.
Can I say one thing about Catherine's chart?
Yeah, please do.
Just in response to her question. Just as having the emotions defined, it's a responsibility. Is what Karen's touching on here. You have an impact with your emotions, and especially with people that are open in that area. And so you don't want to blow up on them because it goes straight in and they don't have any protection from that. So you want to give yourself a little time to cool down. And as an emotional being, time is your friend. And so they may want to make fast decisions, but you have to feel your decisions out, and it takes time. And so, them respecting you is honoring the time that it takes for you to feel out your decisions to gain your clarity. So I just wanted to add that little bit there.
Mm-hmm.
Can I just add something? Can I
Yeah,
respond
please.
to
Yeah.
you guys? And I have to say, having a 3-year-old has incredibly shown me these lessons. As soon as I go off the rails, and it's so true. And I hadn't really thought about it until you actually talked about it. But I knew it, but it's like, as soon as I get aggro or upset or frustrated, it flows on and the whole family dynamic just falls apart. And then it sets the tone, and then my son has a tantrum or does, do you know what I mean? And it's incredibly correlated to how I'm feeling and how I'm reacting.
Yes.
So that's been really and I've noticed that. So I have to often remove myself from situations because I have a really hot temper. So I'll just blow and then I'll get it over with. But then the ramifications of that are bad.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been interesting. And my husband avoids emotions. He hates emotional things. So
Yes.
Really interesting. He's incredibly not emotional about things.
Yeah. He is not emotional.
No, not
It's in his design.
Yeah, and I love that because I'm like,
Well, and that's part of the way that relationships work is we tend to be attracted to what we're not.
yeah.
So if you look at like someone you're wildly attracted to and you just meet them and you're just like, oh, I'm totally into this person, chances are they have the centers that you have undefined, they have them defined, and vice versa. So you kind of combine, and it's that opposites attract thing. And that can be difficult because actually what creates a really compatible connection is often what you have the same with your partner. You'll find, Catherine, you and me hanging out would be pretty easy, because if you were all over the place upset, I'd be like, yeah, no problem. You're not upsetting me because I'm not taking in your emotional energy and amplifying it. I'm just witnessing it and totally understand what that's like.
Yes.
So, it can be a little tricky.
So on the flip side of that, as a therapist, when I'm working with people, if they come in and they're all emotional, I haven't, not knowing their charts at all, just because they come in. But if I'm holding a centered emotional space, that's going to make a massive difference, especially if they are not driven by an emotional authority, right?
Well, you have the ability to not be impacted by their emotions because you do hold your own emotional.
Okay. And then if they're open, I can also influence theirs that way as well to calm them down.
Calm them down, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's part of what I love about hanging out with Wade is he's so calm. Because that's the gift of the emotional definition. That's the potential, is for us to really move into a place of calm and clarity within ourselves. And that for others is so beautiful. And every time I talk to Wade, I just feel more relaxed and more calm, because that's something that he has cultivated in himself. But if the biggest thing that's happening for you is also anger, to me that's the manifesting part of the manifesting generator. So I might look at how you can just be more informing and keeping people in the loop of what you're gonna do, so that they're not, so that you can be free to do your thing, kind of thing, as a mom.
And my son struggles with that dramatically because he can't communicate. He gets so frustrated that he hits things, and because he's just frustrated, but he won't inform us. I'm like, what do you want? And he can't, either he doesn't know the words or he can't express it. And so it comes out in this anger and frustration. Phenomenally bad for him right now. He's 3.
Right. Yeah. Well, and for a little generator, he might not be able to say what he wants, because the sacral is it doesn't know,
Generator.
it only knows what it is in response. So it would be more helpful for him if you could ask him yes or no questions.
Okay.
Like, what's his name?
Miles.
Oh, little Miles. Miles, do you want to go like play outside? No, no. Like, do you want to?
Yeah.
Do you want a hug? You know, you want some food?
Yeah.
You want a snack? You know, asking him, giving him some options so that he can just respond.
Yeah.
Would be helpful.
Which we do a lot of, but it's just frustrating for everyone because you get stuck in this loop of he's like, it's like his favorite sound in the world.
Yeah, that's pure generator frustration. So I love that. Like that's like that is the embodiment of what this work is he's so in touch with his sacral, right?
Yeah.
As a little child, it's like when he's not doing what he wants or things aren't going, he's frustrated and then he's angry. So he's perfect. Like, I mean, you can even start kind of teaching him. It's like, oh, you're frustrated right now. Like, that means you're not using your energy well. What else could we do? Like, starting to kind of teach him about his sacral response so that he can learn not to ignore it like the rest of us.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Yeah, I love it. It's great. Did you have anything you wanted to add, Wade?
Well, yeah, just Catherine, you can also just express what you need as the manifesting generator. So if you're feeling frustrated, it's your responsibility, you have to take responsibility for that. Like when I'm feeling frustrated or angry, it's because I'm out of alignment. And, if I'm frustrated, it's like I need to take a step back and re-examine, am I using my energy correctly right now? And then I'm angry, maybe I need to express what I need so people can work with me better. Yeah. So that's just a couple other little tips.
Beautiful. I think that, the emotional definition versus emotional openness is really the biggest dynamic probably in relationships. So, that's shown to us here with Antonia and Greg, where, I really see this with people that have the open emotions. One of my friends, he has open emotions, and he had an interaction with his brother where his brother just like blew up and was really angry. And, it was so upsetting for my friend that, for him, it was like, I don't want to be around my brother again. Like, I'm not going to let him be close to me. And, for an emotional person that has that emotional definition, they could handle that. They could be in the room with that anger burst, and they could just be like, oh, wow, that person's really upset right now. And it might have an effect on them, but it wouldn't go into them the same way. And it wouldn't be so unhealthy. They'd be able to kind of shrug it off. And so the emotional person that kind of loses it or has a tantrum doesn't realize the impact that has on the people around them and how damaging that can be for that relationship really permanently. So like, as you were saying, Wade, it's just like a responsibility to really learn how to be masterful with it. So, as far as the centers go, let's look at this dynamic a little bit. So interesting, like one thing, both Greg and Antonia both have their ajna and their throat defined. So they each have their own way of thinking, and their way of thinking is quite different from each other. And there's no convincing the other person that your way is right. Like someone that has defined ajna, they just think the way they think, and that's how it is. There's not any convincing them otherwise. So I think this is like a meeting of the minds, you know, like where these two people are going to have their own ideas about how things work, and they're not always going to see things the same way, but I think that could probably be pretty interesting. So, you know, just knowing that about themselves could be valuable to honor. Like, hey, yeah, you think the way you think, I think the way I think, and we may never agree on that.
And when they're in alignment together, like really powerfully bringing their thoughts into the manifestation, you know, like really being able to bring their ideas to life. You know, that's like compatibility too, with like they have this, they're a really powerful team.
Yeah, so let's look at them combined. So what I just did was I took it from one person at a time to the two, you know, both at the same time. So like here we see like exactly what you're saying. These two people like together, it's like there's this is what they create together. We combine all of their gates that they have, and like they create this entire being that's really hooked up. Wow, isn't that cool?
They're a total powerhouse team.
Yes.
And they have a lot of fun together.
Yeah. Yeah. So I don't, can you riff on that a little bit? Wade, I just have to go to the washroom.
Yeah, well, without getting too deep into the information, because yeah, there's basically the number of centers that you define together also has a certain theme. And for them, they have 8 of the 9 centers together. And so there's just little sayings with that. So 8 and 1 is have some fun. And that's what they have. They have the open head center. But they have all 4 motors defined. And yeah, let's see. This is just the kind of relationship where they really fill each other's gaps in a way that enriches their potential together. And in every relationship, you work through the challenges, but once you understand each other and you work through the challenges, then the pieces that you both bring together enhance the relationship. And there's not really like good or bad relationship based on your designs together. You know, it's like life will bring us exactly the right people to learn what we need to learn about ourselves. And then, you know, if the time comes and we split apart, well, that's a natural process. Sometimes that's what's needed. And then another person comes along and it gives you the opportunity to have a deeper, better relationship. You know, some people find their right relationships right off the bat, and they're just working with different lessons. Other people have a number of relationships. And, you know, it's just kind of getting away from judging yourself, however it goes for you, and working with what life has in front of you right now, and getting to know yourself, and then supporting the other person as you get to know them too. So we've all been in a relationship. We all know these things, but human design gives us the tools of how to know ourselves and how to support one another so we can have healthier relationships.
Beautiful. Thank you. I love that you made that point, because I love, like, I think it's a tendency that that people have when they learn this, and they can start looking at charts together, that they can just make mental decisions about the relationship, like, oh, this person isn't good for me. You know, two of my friends, they have a business together coaching couples on how to have happy marriages. You know, their combined charts, there's quite a lot of like dominance, with ways where they, you know, on paper might have more conflict, but the actuality is that they have an incredibly beautiful relationship. So if they were to just look at their, you know, the information strictly and make a decision on how to relate, or how, you know, the success of their relationship just based on looking at their charts, they might decide, oh, we're not, you know, compatible or whatever. But, you know, they're having a blast. They have a healthy, loving, great relationship. So, you know, human design can provide guidance, but I don't personally like the tendency to just make mental decisions based on the information. I think that's one of the dangers of this model.
Yeah, and I would really be careful with the bond too, especially because it does give you some deeper detail to that. But you don't really want to, like Karen's saying, you don't want to judge the relationship on paper. This is just a tool to help you, and always it comes from within, whether it feels right or not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So like, but I think part of the value, I think that in relationships, understanding and what they look like, undefined, what they look like, defined, and the healthy version of each center, defined and undefined. When you really get a strong handle on that, you can really get a sense of relationships and how they work together. And that's not something that I feel like we were really able to go into in depth in the free school, but it's definitely worthwhile getting a sense of that. Wanted to just move it to this. So yeah, looking at the 9 centers and how you influence each other, you know, like Greg and Antonia individually, hitting the wrong button. Individually, neither of them really, they both have undefined G centers. So they both kind of are open to different directions. Together, they have a defined G. So they might find that together, they actually bring a direction. They create a direction together. They almost like create an identity. And incidentally, these two actually do work together as a team doing this incredible healing work. So, you know, I've experienced them their healing, and it is this. It is like they are an entity together. And they don't even need to talk. Like, they just do it. It's magical.
I mean, can I just say just a couple little things about that real quick?
Yeah, please.
Not too deep, but just to give people an example, it's like they have gate 10, the behavior of the self. They have the 4629, which is all about the love of the self. They have the 5027, it's all about nurturing. So it's like when they're together, they bring this identity that is all about self-love, like the proper behavior for self-love, and they're just very nurturing. So that's just a little example of what is created when these two come together. That's their magic.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Absolutely.
what makes it
Beautiful. I love that. Okay, cool. So then I just want to touch on the last gem. So the last gem, the navigational gem, is unique leadership characteristics. And, you know, with that, we look at, is this person, what their profile is. So we did explore profile in the free school, looking at like the 1-3 and the 2-4 and, you know, the 4-6, 5-1, all the different combinations of profile. And once you understand profile, you can really tell a lot about a person just based on their profile. So let's look at these guys. So, you know, we have Greg, who's a 4-6. So, you know, he's someone that it's going to be important for him to confide in his partner, to have someone that he can really share his innermost secrets and his feelings and, you know, what's really going on for him inside. That's how he connects. And in order for him to really be intimate with someone, he needs to feel like they're his soulmate or his life partner. You know, that's embedded in the 4-6. Let's look at Antonia. Oh, okay, so Antonia is a 5-2. So interesting. I have nothing to say about that at this moment. Do you have anything, Wade?
Well, the 2, you know, needs to be called out and needs to be recognized. And so that kind of goes with, you know, the 4-6, the soulmate or not, the 5-2, there's a relationship there in the sense that, well, she's like the distributor and he is the networker, and she has the natural talents and he's striving for perfection. And so they're just kind of weaving these two profiles together in a really beautiful way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, I know for myself, because you know, Rory's a 5-1 and I'm a 4-6. So I notice, like, for the 4, you know, confiding is a really big part of their design. It's just that, like, desire to just talk and really share, you know, intimately with friends. And I felt like, you know, I think the 5 doesn't really need to do that. They don't, you know, anyone that doesn't have a 4 in their profile, they don't need to confide in the same way. So I felt like Rory was always really good, you know, to confide in, but it wasn't always like a reciprocal thing where he didn't really need to talk really all that much. So that might be a little bit of a dynamic in that connection as well. And then the other thing about that you can look at in terms of navigational gem number 4, unique leadership characteristics, is what type of circuitry does the person you're relating with have. So here we have, you know, Antonia, she has both of her channels are collective channels. So she's going to be naturally interested in things, topics that are having to do with the collective well-being and, you know, the bigger picture of, you know, life on a grand scale, like the, you know, the global trends and, you know, what's happening on a macro level. And let's look at what circuitry Greg has. So Greg also has 2 collective channels. So he can really meet Antonia on that level. And then he has these 2 tribal channels. So as you know, that tribal part of him is going to be, you know, really focused on like family and food, touch. He's probably like loves, you know, just cuddles, and I mean he's a hands-on healer. I mean that's perfectly makes sense with tribal circuitry is, touch, closeness. So I've noticed, people with pure collective circuitry that they don't always like a lot of touch. They can kind of do without it. Whereas people that have that tribal circuitry, they need more touch. So yeah, I mean, there's so much to circuitry and what kind of circuitry you have. I mean, I didn't teach it as a part of the free schools. It's not something I really want to go into right now, but just to give you an idea of how, circuitry, every channel that you have is one of 4 types. It's individual, collective, tribal, or integration. And that's going to influence the connection that you have with others. And it's so nice to honor others in the way that they are. Like I honor with difficulty sometimes my collective friends that don't want to give me a hug. They don't want to give me what I want. But that's not, they're in their design. So, and I can see it very clearly. You want to say something, Wade?
No. Well, you haven't taught about circuitry yet, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I don't know.
Why don't you just share whatever you felt like sharing?
Yeah, nothing's coming up. I mean, you said the main points. I mean, the tribal, recognizing if you have tribal circuitry, that's a big thing, that you really recognize that your relationships are based on a handshake and trust and touch, scratching each other's backs, so to speak. They're reciprocal. The collective is more about just sharing. I mean, this is somebody with a YouTube channel that just likes to get their message out and share with the collective. And then the individuals are just very, very individual. They can come across as almost selfish, but what they're really showing us is self-love, and they show the world what self-love looks like. So, and then integration is part of that individual circuitry. So I think that's about the gist of it.
Yeah, like I'll just speak to the integration individual part, because
I'm not hearing you, Karen.
Can I ask a question while she's frozen?
Sure.
How do you, I know she hasn't taught about it, but can you give us a quick how you work out which one of those you are? Is there a quick way of that, or is that something we shouldn't touch?
As far as what kind of circuitry you have?
Yes.
Yeah. There's not really a quick way. I think that's something that is going to be covered in the class.
Yeah.
But you can just recognize these things in general. If you have tribal circuitry, you're the kind of person that just likes to, for instance, touch your friend's arm. And somebody that is tribal will touch your arm. And it's just like a subtle way of letting somebody know that, you're in my tribe, or they're letting you know that that's how they feel about you.
Mm-hmm.
If you're collective, you're, like Karen said, you're not really interested in that much. You might be almost a little offended if somebody's touching you too much, So, I don't know. Does that make sense at all?
It does make sense. I was just kind of curious, like, anyway, I'm a 1. like want to know the nitty gritties.
Mm-hmm.
It's all good.
Really fun part of human design to look at, because this is deeper into the information. It really does bring so much insight into how you interact yourself, how you are interacting with people.
Yeah.
It shows you a lot of what you expect out of relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and not a bad way, but it's almost defines some parameters of a healthy relationship for you, and it helps you recognize people that are good for you in that way. And then also, obviously recognize that in your partners and your friends, and being able to honor their circuitry. It's just this, like, getting deeper into the information, but it's really where it starts to make sense in the real world for you.
Cool. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was just going to say, for me, learning about my circuitry just helped me so much in how I work with clients. And, to understand that, if I'm not empowered in how I'm working, then I'm really not offering what I have to offer. And because, the models that I had for coaching were more tribal models, of just making sure you're taking care of everyone, and, maybe putting yourself second and doing things that, hand holding and, all that kind of stuff. When I learned about my circuitry, it really just helped me to let go of some of the expectations that I'd had on myself about how I should be working with clients. And, now the way that I set up my connections with clients is empowered, so that I'm making sure that I'm taking care of myself, and also honoring that what I bring is a mutation, like a change for people, that, that's the value that I bring, that we're interacting with me and working with me is going to be highly, mutative or transformational, because of my circuitry. Yeah. So I want to pause there, and because we're coming up to the end of our time together, and I can stay on and have some more chats with people that want to stay longer. I feel really relaxed and mellow today, which is nice. I just wanted to let you know that we are starting the Human Design for Leaders program next week. And I've been having some really nice conversations with people who are, on the fence. And I've been really enjoying getting to meet people one-on-one to talk about it in a no pressure chat. So if you're considering joining us, you can find all the information on successrefuge.com, and you can just go to this tab here, Human Design, and then scroll down to, this page here is the page that goes over the program description. The funny thing is, a lot of people that I'm hearing from are kind of saying, what, I didn't really resonate with anything you wrote on the page, but I just want to do the program. So, what I find about human design is it just kind of like, it resonates with you or it doesn't. And if it resonates with you, chances are it has something for you. And human design is a model that, is widely delivered. There's, a lot of people out there teaching this. So there's definitely no shortage of teachers that can share this information with you. And I definitely bring my own perspective and my own approach. So, doing human design with Karen and with Wade for as long as and as much as Wade is here. And I think, there's no promises, but Wade, I think, is probably going to be here.
It seems to be. I keep showing up.
which is amazing because I just feel like Wade is such a gift, like, Wade has studied the Bantu system. So he has a level and depth of this knowledge that is far beyond what I have, that he brings. And Wade has a finely tuned intuition and a level of awareness that I think is extremely rare. So, to have, him and here, and then to have me here, what I bring is truth and empowerment. I've spent the last 2 years living like a monk, being radically honest with myself, and I have a very fine-tuned BS detector, and I bring that to the table with, to me, like just enough thrust to get through to you. So that's one thing I bring. I also bring, success in the business world. I know how to market. I know how to sell. I know the traditional models of business. And to me, I'm really interested in supporting people to do business their way and to have things be aligned with who they are. So, you can bring your marketing stuff to me, and you can, share that in the Facebook group and get the business support if you do have a business. I mean, not everyone that's being drawn to this is in business, and you don't have to be, but that is something that I bring. I'm interested in having this information influence how you work and how you bring your contribution to the whole. So that's something I can definitely bring to the table. I just want to see what's going on in the chat. Oh, you can't see me. Thank you. You're seeing Wade. I don't know if you knew that, Wade. Okay, hold on a second. I have to do a little finagling for you to be able to see me. What else? Yeah, so that's, all the details of the program are here. And, if it resonates, it resonates. And if it resonates, it's worth having a chat with me to make sure that it's right for you. So to book a chat with me, you just go to here, book a chat with Karen, and you'll find access to my schedule. I've made myself pretty widely available, so hopefully a time will work for you, and if not, you can always just email me. We also, my friend Leanne and I, we filmed a chat that we had about the program, and I answered really a lot of questions about the program in this audio or this video, so you can watch that and get more information as well. And if you're thinking about it, I encourage you to do the research and look into it this week, because it is filling up, so that's kind of exciting. And that the current rate is $297 a month, and once the first 25 spots are filled, it goes up to $497 a month. And if you know of anyone that you think might be good for this, please, I appreciate you sharing that with anyone that you feel is a good fit. We have an awesome group. I'm really excited about the people that are going to be a part of this. What I find, the funny thing is people not resonate. They're like, I really want to do this, but I don't resonate with the page that you wrote about it. And to me, what isn't resonating for some people is that they just are generally pretty happy, and they're generally doing pretty well overall. And so for them, they didn't resonate with being bogged down or really even challenged necessarily in their relationships or their business. But they're just drawn to learning this. So if that's you, I encourage you to follow that, because, for me personally, I think what I've seen is like human design just kind of infects you. And then if it infects you and it's something that you're just just like drawn to learn more about, it probably has something valuable for you. And I certainly know that it has for me. So yeah. Is there anything that you want to share, Wade, about the program, or just what?
Yeah, excited to participate. This has already been fun, and I'm really just resonating with everyone that's been showing up to these free calls. And you know, I'm just blown away because I got here by following my emotional authority. And like Karen said, it's been a long process to get me to show up. And it's not like I had a choice. It was just like I had to wait until it really felt right. And now that it is, all these neat little things are happening. Like when I'm looking at people's charts, I share characteristics with them, and so I can speak with you guys through my own experience and having similar profiles. And so, I'm just enjoying this journey, and I just keep being blown away by just how this life is unfolding. It's really incredible. And and I thank you all for showing up and participating with us. It's been a lot of fun.
That's awesome. Oh, so sweet. Haumea asked, is the first module up yet? Yes, actually the first 2 modules are up already. For once people register for Human Design for Leaders, the first 2 modules are up. So if you didn't get those, just let me know, because you should be able to see them once you register. You'll get access to the first 2 lectures already are already up. So thank you so much for being on the call today. And for anyone that wants to stick around, we can just have a little chat. I'd like to, I always find, for me, like as a teacher, I love, what makes it satisfying is to hear how it's impacting you, like what you're actually learning, and not just to always be answering questions or giving more. So as a model of selfishness, I'd love to just go around, for anyone that's sticking around, and just hear one thing that you've got or received from today that you're taking away that's valuable for you. And what I'll do is I'll just go through the list here. And if you feel like sharing, great. And if you don't, you can just pass. So I'm going to start with the beautiful, beautiful Alicia. I unmuted you.
Well, you know what popped into my head when you said that wasn't what I took away from today, but last time was about sort of the being a passive person, and then reading a little bit more kind of about how my brain works. And so it was so interesting because yesterday I had an interaction with my husband, with my daughter, and I said something to her, and then he sort of squashed the space of where she could respond. And I said, I didn't feel supported by that. And he made a comment, and he said, well, if you had warned me ahead of time that you were going to say that to her, then I would have known what to do. And I said, my brain doesn't work that way. I didn't plan ahead that I was going to say this to her. And since I had kind of shared some of this with him, he goes, oh yeah, you're right. I knew as soon as those words came out of my mouth that you don't work that way. Yes. So, what kind of would have turned into something bigger for us, maybe, it was like, oh yeah, we're both really different that way. So, again, that speaks for itself, right?
Oh, that's so awesome. Yes. Yeah, I love that. And that's something, I think that's like that deeper level of knowledge that human design brings, is the passive and active. And I've learned a lot about that from Wade, because Wade is 3 parts passive. And, one way that plays out in our interactions is, I have more of a strategic mind and he has more of a passive mind. So, whether I like it or not, my mind plans, and it has like a logical pattern, which actually makes me a great teacher. Like, you'll notice the flow of the whole like free school was very logical and sequential, and Wade's mind not like that. And so it's been really nice working with him because he just kind of shows up and shares whatever comes, and I provide more of the structure, so we can just like honor that difference between us and not expect the other person to be the other way. So yeah, that's beautiful that you're already seeing that.
And I can add a little bit in terms of my business, just real short, because he has an active mind. He's been putting a whole program together, and that'll probably work really well for him. I've struggled to do that for the last year and wondered why I couldn't. And I realized that I don't even think that's what I'm supposed to do.
Uh-huh.
Like, it goes against everything that I am to put some kind of a process down and like plan it. So in some ways, yeah, that's really freeing. I mean, it's very freeing.
Yes, that's awesome. And like the passive thing is like the way of the future. So you're kind of paving the way for something new, So there aren't a lot of templates for you to follow, which is why it's nice to be, around someone like Wade who's already kind of been experimenting with that and embracing that about himself for the last few years.
Yeah, Alicia, you really trust what pops up, because it's always the right thing for the moment, and that really, people reflect that to you. The more you relax your mind and lead the way that way, it's a huge warehouse of information, and it's holding much more information than you can even comprehend. But it will always give you what you need in the now, and that's really amazing to fall to that trust. Thank
you.
Awesome. Okay, thank you, Alicia. I'm going to go to Haumea. What are you receiving right now?
It's been really helpful just to relax into who I am and be able to also recognize some of the patterns that some people are faster than I am. Like my friend that has the sacral authority versus my emotional authority. And now be able to communicate that to her so that we can possibly have better alignment. So that's very valuable. Just all of this has actually really changed my life in the last few weeks since you've done free school. And I've been diving into it further and further. And now I'm really curious about how we come together in relationships and complete each other or not, or, the challenges that come up. So I'm really fascinated to use the Bantu software as well. So thank you for introducing that. Yeah.
Awesome. You're welcome. So lovely to hear you share. Oh, this is really yummy. Okay, I'm going to go to Jale.
Hi, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Hi. Well, it's been really great. There are a lot of things I could say, actually. The first thing was just being able to respect, again, like I knew a bit about me being a projector and having a lot of open centers, almost all of them open. Yes. And with business particularly, to find the balance of waiting for the invitation, but being visible so that I can be recognized and invited, so that it's not a passive kind of waiting for the invitation. I can still be in movement and sharing, because I have a lot of collective circuits. So I'm supposed to share, and I realized, okay, it was just a really good confirmation of when I share, that's when I tend to be invited, and then it's a very fun way to do business instead of feeling like, oh, I have to be passive and just twiddle my thumbs. The way someone else explained it to me before, like a year ago, it felt very it didn't resonate at all because it was like I was at a standstill. She was like, well, just don't do anything until you're invited. And I was like, well, that didn't make any sense to me. So I really liked, it was just a really nice set of confirmations of being able to have the YouTube channel and invite people to small gatherings where I could create a space and create an experience that's for the group. And then that just getting to lead to invitations. That was really awesome. And
that's so awesome.
Yeah. May I share one other really cool thing about you?
Yeah, of course.
Wade, I really love the way you and Wade bounce off of each other. It's really free flowing, and I know you're both just responding to what's coming up, but it's beautiful the way you bounce off of each other. So I just wanted to say that also.
Thank
I know
you.
you probably feel that, but I just wanted to reflect it. Project that. But with my husband and I, it's interesting because I have so many open centers. Most of my life, I've completely been around the very fast-paced, working in a hospital and doing physical therapy in a very, very fast-paced. And for 6 years, I could keep up with it until I couldn't at all. And I was working with almost all manifesting generators or manifestors, and I was reflecting a lot and soaking a lot in until I just couldn't soak it in anymore. So I needed to have like a bit of a break. And getting married to my hubby, he is a he's a generator. So I could actually be at my own pace with him because there wasn't this like, hurry, go. You're taking too long. You have to do like twice as much in half the time kind of energy that I was in for 6 years. Now it's like, like whatever time you need. And I was like, oh, okay.
That's so nice.
It's so nice. And I've been attracting clients who are generators. And I think he switched the pattern. So all of my clients, when I checked, they're all generators.
That's so beautiful.
Oh my God. So
Nice.
I'm gonna like kind of get you just because it's life feels very different.
Yes.
Having people force me to hold that space for them as a projector because they love that part of me, but not honoring that I need to just take care of my energy. So I'm very grateful, and I think you guys are awesome.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I can see
awesome.
That's more other stuff, but I want to give everyone else a chance to talk. But if you ever need me to say anything else about it, you just let me know.
Okay, cool. Well, feel free to post. I would love to hear more.
Oh, awesome. I will do that. Thank you for inviting me. I will do that.
You're welcome. I would love to hear more. That's what to me like makes it satisfying is hearing, the impact, right? So let's go to Jody.
Hi.
Hello.
My takeaway from today is about understanding my 25-year-old son, who is a projector. My husband and I are both manifesting generators. My daughter is also a manifesting generator. And since my son was born, he's always been that one will fall asleep much more quickly, needs much more rest, just tends to not be able to keep up for that period of time. And I've always wondered why. I mean, I realize everyone's different, but that part of him has been something I've always questioned and always wondered why. And you've answered that for me today. So that's been fantastic. So thank you very much for that. That'll really be helpful. He doesn't live with us anymore, but it's just, really helpful to have that understanding and that knowledge. The other thing too is with my husband and I, both manifesting generators, we have the 8 and 1, have some fun. And that was so cool to hear that because our life is just one laugh after another. We both have the undefined will though.
That's a good one to have undefined.
we just have so much fun together, and it's like, gosh, this really explains it. I mean, you can have all sorts of other reasons why, you can look for other reasons why that happens, but this explains it so well. So it's awesome. It's really cool. I resonate very, very strongly with this, and I would love to do the full course. It's just the timing, unfortunately, just not right for me right now. And I hope you will be doing more of these, whether they be little bits of free school or another course later on, maybe next year. I don't know. But it's helped me also understand that my change in direction that I'm about to have as a manifesting generator. Maybe just a little question there then.
Nope.
Oh,
Nope.
okay.
No, I'm gonna move on. Yeah, I just want to make
great.
sure we get to everyone. But I love hearing what you got out of this. So
Great. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks for joining us all the way from across the world.
You're welcome. My pleasure too.
Michael, I don't think you can talk. I'll unmute you. Yeah, I did get the sense you were learning about your relationship, so I'm happy to hear that. Awesome. Okay, let's go to Rose.
So for me, I think I'm still kind of figuring out, being a manifesting generator, how to balance the manifester and the generator parts of myself. I definitely feel like there's a bit of tension. So yeah, it was helpful today to learn just a bit more about some of those aspects and to think about how they apply to me. And then the other thing that was an interesting takeaway was the combined chart. And to, like you and Phelan have talked about this idea of the third mind and like coming together. And when you're with another person or with a team, there's like a different consciousness that emerges from everybody's contributions. So seeing the combined chart was a big aha for me to think about, kind of, here's an explanation of how that manifests.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I've been really fascinated with the sort of new person being born in 2027 and reading up about that from a human design point of view. So seeing the combined circuitry made me sort of understand a bit more this idea of people that come together for a greater whole.
Well, that's cool. That whole part of human design I find just so weird, and I totally don't buy into it. But I know Wade does. I think he has more insight on it.
Well, we'll just have to see. It's not too far away.
Rose, I just love to reflect to you that what I see in you is like you look really healthy, and I like, because you've been experimenting with this for probably almost a year.
Yeah.
So I think you're becoming healthier with your energy, from what I see, just in looking at you right now.
Well, yeah, thank you for that feedback. I definitely feel like there's still sort of a struggle for me. But I would agree with you that a lot of the busyness or the sort of doing things out of compulsion or, trying to succeed or trying to make things happen, I have been able to drop a lot of that away. But I feel like it's an ongoing process where I'm, sort of holding the clarity of like, what do I really need for myself to sort of nurture myself and feel, like that I'm not fighting my inner nature. And I feel like that's a journey still in process. Anyway, thank you for reflecting back what you've seen in me in the time that we've known each other.
Thank you, Rose.
You're welcome.
Okay, let's hear from the energetic Miss Garrow.
So
in closing.
yes. So for me, very much a lot of it has been about the surrendering, like really taking that on and really exploring that right now, mainly because the world made me do it. Otherwise I wouldn't have. But a big aha today for me was just really understanding how much of a knife my emotions can have, like how much of a weapon it can be. So that's actually been really, really powerful, like understanding that and realizing that, a part of the growing up process is knowing when is the time to process your stuff and when it isn't. And it just reinforces for me again and again, the solution comes from the inside out. You know, it's like when I take time to nurture me and meditate and do the things I need, I don't have the emotional explosion that happens all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it's been very profound. Plus I just fucking love learning shit. So I'm like in my geek out heaven right now. I'm like, I've got my design book and I'm like, oh, I can now learn about the charts. So I'm like busy tabbing all of the different connection points. Every person who comes into my clinic, I'm like, right, what's your date of birth? What time are you born?
That's awesome.
So yeah.
That's what the infection looks like, by the way.
I'll like immerse in it, I'll learn enough, and then I'll be like, oh, I'm done now. Next. So,
Exactly.
yeah. That was pretty cool. So thank you. And thank you.
You're welcome.
I appreciate your insights as well.
Oh, it's really fun to communicate with you.
Cool. It's so fun. Wade, do you have anything you want to say in closing?
No, it's just been a great time. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah.
Don't have much else to say.
Perfect. Yeah, me too. I feel the same way. I don't really have much to say, but it's been really fun, and I really appreciate the level of participation that you all have brought to the table to make it so fun and real. So, bueno, hasta luego, everyone, and go forth and honor yourself. You're so welcome. Okay, bye.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Karen.
Bye.